Hey guys, Lex the Gray here. I want to do a short follow-up episode. So this will be 10.5, session 10.5 for the Shadows of Darkain. Because after trying Dungeon World for a full episode, for about an hour and a half, including the character introductions, I was actually not too satisfied using this after Maze Rats for a while. I'm not saying I dislike Dungeon World. I just don't think it's suitable for my current position and status of Shadows of Darkain. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna do a slight rewrite and a tweak with the campaign and going back to using maze rats. And here's my explanation for this. Now, this might be controversial to some of my viewers who saw episode 10 and thought, okay, Lex is using uh, Dungeon World. All right. Well, I'm going back to maze rats. However, as I tweaked my characters, I thought of using Knave for the backgrounds because one thing I noticed that was giving me some trouble, and a lot of these small corrections come from my Misfortune Legacy, which was a train wreck at times. I used so many different engines, so many different oracles. I need to tell myself that it's good to learn from your mistakes. So here I am trying to learn from my mistakes. I tweaked the characters to fit into a class style system. I do like the class system that Dungeon World had for each character. It puts them in a generic placeholder where when you play, you're familiar with the character, and that's how I pictured it. I didn't want my characters to be too unique. I want them to actually kind of fit that generic position as a fighter, thief, wizard, and a rogue, or a fighter, yeah, a wizard and a ranger. But how was that going to help when I wasn't happy with Dungeon Worlds as far as I was into this campaign? So what I did is I'm glad I kept my original character sheets from Maze Rats, and this is why I kept it because I kind of knew in the back of my mind that this was going to happen to me. I tweaked the background appearances and the class, adding a class to each character. Ellis is a fighter, rightfully so. He was the natural born leader of the team. His background now is a guard. Because I see after role playing with this character for, an X amount of time, it makes sense. His previous background, the backgrounds for these characters, I never actually really took into play. I never really took into account for the role play element of these videos. So now I actually want to try to use them to my advantage. As I saw it, Ellis seemed to be a person who seemed to be a current adventurer who used to be a guard because he talks to the guards a lot. He had that moment where he felt like he was a guard escorting that pirate. So I put him as a guard. Appearance, he's athletic. He has a shaved head. He dresses formally, like with his armor. He feels entitled and he has a deep voice. So I didn't change the deep voice, but I changed these other ones besides the shaved head. So I kept those two the same. For Red, he's a rogue, using the background from actually Rogue. I don't think is on either system. It's either Ranger or a thief. So I just used Rogue. His background's a smuggler. I thought the way that his character was working in the campaign, the smuggler seemed to make the most sense to me. He's still scrawny, though he has piercings. His clothes are his rogue appearance is decaying. He's still nervous, but he whispers. The rambling was too forced, I felt, for his character. I was trying too hard to make that work, and I think whispers fits more into a rogue's demeanor. So that's his character. Now, after again, just a few retcons going on here, nothing huge besides the engine change. And for Clovis, Clovis is the most unique. out of all four. I think Ellis and Clovis are these strange, they have this arch rivalry that probably will become a factor in the campaign. So I put him under Wizard. I changed his background to Cultist because I felt like he seems to have some and interest in the cult, in Darkain, which fits for him to be a wizard. So he's a magic user, he's a wielder of magic, and he has some familiarity with the cult. He's delicate. I'm gonna have think his accent is exotic. That's just how I pictured it. So an exotic accent, like very over the top. He's tasteless. I don't think he's heartless. I think he's tasteless. So I changed that after again role playing these characters for 10 episodes. He's stubborn, which that was I think that's definitely an adjustment needed. And I believe he's highly formal. He dresses very fashionably as a wizard. I think he's very high strung. Now our final character is the Ranger, Jules. I changed him to an explorer. I felt that he's a very simple man and he has a background as an explorer. Now, did I keep the pet companion? I'm still thinking about it. It's not necessarily a mechanic from Maze Rats, but I feel like I can bring that in because it was a huge part of the last episode, and changing that suddenly wouldn't make too much sense. However, the counter argument would be having introduced into that episode was a huge change. So I'm kind of on a thin rope here about this one, and it'll just come down to how I think about it in the next few hours. But the pet is still up in the air. It was useful though, but it could be a cheap plot device, or what do you call it? A conveniento. So I thought I changed his appearance a bit and his character wise. He's slender, long hair, patches for his clothing. He's loyal because he seemed to be. He never really seemed to question Ellis at many points, and neither did Red. Red and Jules seem to be the most loyal, but I think more so Jules. And I think the way he talks, I did the interrupt thing, but again, I felt it was out of character for him. Long pauses. Kind of has the same style of talking like Barack Obama. I felt like he would pause to analyze his sentences, to think for a moment. Again, he's a simple man. Doesn't mean he's dumb. I think this the way he talks, being an explorer, he's been out in the world. He's very calm. He's very collected, very patient. That's why he's loyal. So I think he understands what's going on. He likes to analyze his surroundings. That's why he's an explorer and a ranger. So I think long pauses really does fit the vibe for his character. That's what I did for the characters. So I brought back Maze Rats, and to be honest, like I did kind of miss these character sheets. They really grew on me after a long time. The other character sheets I still have them for Dungeon World. To be honest, a criticism is that there's too much going on. I got too used to the simplicity of Maze Rats. Even a full page is fine with me, but having these two-sided pages is just a little too much in my opinion, especially for solo playing and I'm controlling four characters. If this was a group game, this would be suitable. This is perfect. It gives you a how-to pretty much on the character sheet, and you can go from there. It gives you descriptions, everything you need to do. These are play kits, they're not necessarily character sheets. They're play kits. I should correct myself on that one. But I think it's just too much for me to handle in regards to solo play. So I don't want to destroy this campaign. This is why I'm making these little retcons and corrections. Because I'm really, really, really enjoying this campaign, but I see a need for these small fixes and I should say readjustments, which is my own fault. But however, to improve on myself in these solo videos, I need to I need to understand my limitations and make adjustments every handful of episodes after doing just enough time of play to take note into account what I can change and retcon just a bit. So, session 11 is going to be huge for me. It's still debatable what's going to happen. This is my chicken scratch from the ending of the last video, and I tried to organize a bit more. So, Commander Fisk, owns a mysterious locked book in his study. We know that. Captain Etherian seems to defy Fisk's authority. There's a strange characteristic about Etherian where he, at least when the presence of Fisk, shakes in his boots. But when Fisk is not around, he has a different agenda in mind. So he's unpredictable. He has his own agenda, but scared around, I shouldn't say scared, nervous when with, so, let's say, with Fisk, if that makes sense. That's why I gave more rooms for these character cards so we can expand on these characters. Commander Fisk, we're still learning about. We don't know too much about him just yet. We saw him in the distance and briefly for one moment. Now, the team itself, I should say, the team needs to speak to Lord Balthazar at noon when Commander Fisk is normally out on his lunch. The team believes Lore, and this is kind of a side note, the team believes Lore is planning another attack because but not in the open. Here's why. This is kind of an add-on. This was not necessarily part of the last episode. It's because it's been a day plus, 1 to 2 days or so, when we haven't had an attack. And these attacks have been happening up until we discovered the camp on the forest and defeated Lore. He escaped. So I think he's definitely planning his next attack, though it won't be as subtle, as blatant as last time. It could be far more secretive. And then finally, there is more mystery to the dungeon below Belmont Castle because we weren't able to explore the whole thing. We only saw the study, which was essentially the entrance room, the entry point in the entire dungeon. It could be multiple levels. It could be pretty small. We don't know. That's the point of solo play. So uh, I think that's really it for this short, brief additional episode. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this. I think I'll just put the 10.5 retcon, but I hope it doesn't piss off too many people. I needed to do this for my own good, and I think it's just more of a hand holding this campaign so it doesn't go off the rails because I just wasn't too satisfied with Dungeon World after a good solid hour and a half play. Not that I don't like Dungeon World. I do like the system, but I felt if I were to use Dungeon World in the future, it would have to be a fresh campaign, not to come halfway through, or at least, after 10 episodes. So, as expected, I'm glad I kept my character sheets for Maze Rats to continue the next episode and beyond. So, that's it, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.